we're excited to have two of our product lines. We especially expense management. We have an inventory management database. So we organize all of your invoices and inventory, and we, like I say to people, is didn't realize it, but I grew up to read phone bills. How exciting is that? So our other part of our business is our engineering and design managed services. So we actually dive into those bills and what projects you have and help you design excellent client experiences, is like what we like to say. And Ring Centrals is a great example of that, of really diving in and peeling back what you're looking for in a unified communications service platform, and helping you pair that and utilize those collaboration items. So just a few items on working with Symplicity. One of our largest clients named us the Dragon Slayers. Maybe a Game of Thrones reference, maybe not, but this is what it's like with working with some of the big providers out there. Sometimes it feels like the 900-pound gorilla, or in our case, the dragon, and sometimes we have to slay that dragon. So we really try to focus on partnering with our clients and being that resource and stepping up whatever they need to deal with some of the challenges that come up in telecom, or just design some really cool stuff. There's a lot of neat things happening in the technology industry. So we have our inventory management system that helps us keep organized. We interact with all the suppliers out there. We have a huge list of over 180 providers in all of the different disciplines in technology, so we can really dive in and look at what suppliers are the best suppliers for your needs. And we really go above and beyond. One of my clients, I actually sit in every one of their budget meetings and help them understand line by line what's happening. And because we look at the bills and know the bills so much, it really helps dial into their forecast. And over the last 2.5 years working with this billion-dollar company, we've reduced their budget by 42%. It's been an amazing project, but we're really excited about that. We really try to focus on personalized strategy and find solutions that are really going to make a difference. So that is what we focus on, and so we listen to you as the clients and understand what are you trying to accomplish, what are your objectives, what are the business outcomes that you're trying to work towards, and that's what we center the strategy around and partner with you to develop that. We don't focus on pressure of quotas and in salespeople. It's really about identifying the solutions and getting the right products to the table for you. We like to say we take ownership of what we do. We really help you understand the products that you're looking for, and help you understand the differences between the nuances, because in my opinion, there's different reasons to use different providers. So we try to help you understand what those are. So that's a little bit about Symplicity. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and let Ring Central share those, and certainly we can answer any questions at the end of the webinar. But Matt, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and stop sharing here.
Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, let's see if I can do this correct. Hopefully you all will see a slide that has my mug shot on it. If you're
Looks
a Dallas
good.
football fan, that's the field in the background. I was out there one weekend and got to go see a game, so it was quite an event. But my name's Matt Christ. I'm a senior account executive with Ring Central in the contact center space. I've been in the contact center arena for a little over 23 years. About 11 of those years have really been sitting on the customer side, bringing technology in, trying to drive efficiencies in my contact center. I've built 2 contact centers from scratch, bringing in every form of technology you can think of. And the last one I built out, we went from around 60 employees up to around 1,800 in about 14 months. So it was a tremendous ramp, a tremendous paradigm shift as far as from what the company was to how fast they were growing through acquisitions and everything of that nature. But enough about me. So if there's things out there and you hear a passion in my voice, it's because, from the operational side, there's things that I just think are tremendous as far as, what will actually help a company and how you start driving changes, customer experience, and things of that nature. I'm going to get a couple of fluff slides out of the way quick. when you look at out in the market, as far as what's taking place in the cloud arena, by 2021, about 90% of the IT leaders will not be purchasing premise-based unified communications infrastructures. Gartner actually has done away with the premise-based area that they're all their ratings and guidings on. So this year, you will not even see it as one of their areas that they'll publish any type of information on. But the biggest part of that is this, cloud is out there driving right now, and it's doing a tremendous job as far as what it allows not only large companies to do, but what it does in the fashion of allowing small to mid-sized companies be able to take on applications that only used to be able and brought into the offices and the contact centers for very large companies. So it's made everybody a lot more nimble and a lot more advanced in their technology portfolio. RingCentral is very fortunate when you start looking at the Gartner quadrant. We are, from up in the top right as far as where we're positioned. And the biggest thing that when you read the full report with Gartner, and it's probably one of the most important things that needs to be accomplished when you're working with vendors, and that's execution. There's so many times, even from the company that I previously came from, that was extremely dominant in the outbound arena for contact centers. It just could not execute and could not deliver the product in a time frame that was looked at, which would be a feasible, project plan. So, RingCentral is very good at that. When they say something's on a roadmap, when they say that they're going to be able to put a plan together and be able to execute to deliver the contact center solution or the unified communications solution to you, they do an extremely good job of delivering that. And one of the other things that has helped RingCentral in its growth spurts, through the years, is we do a tremendous amount of reinvestment back into our product. We have great customer advisory boards. We listen to our customers not only on a once-a-year basis, but constant panels throughout the year. What are things that they're seeing that they need? Or maybe they've never seen it before, but they'd love to be able to do that with their unified communications and collaboration platform or with their contact center platform. So we listen to our customers. We put it into product in a very quick manner. We spend right around 3 times as much as our closest competitor. And that results in great revenue with a run rate that we're looking at as far as in our growth is right around that 33% year over year on a revenue rate. And we're looking at year 2020 of hitting a little over $1 billion. So that's where RingCentral is. That's where we've been driving to. We were not a company that was a premise-based solution that transitioned into the cloud and started making cloud products for the 17 years in existence. We have been solely designed from the cloud out. This is a little bit of our footprint that we have in our global arena. So we're not just a North American company. We have 27 data centers throughout the world. We work on a active geo redundancy. And the nice thing about this is RingCentral's network. We're not hanging off of a BroadSoft or some other type of a network that's out there. It's one that we've put into place. Our peering relationships that we have out there usually allows you with one hop to be onto our network. And what's important about that is the ability to be able to control quality. Not only quality of that customer that's calling into your contact centers or calling into your offices, but the quality within inside your network on those phone lines or the people are sitting at the desk and you're going over the top. So this gives you a little bit of a big picture as far as where RingCentral is and all of the areas that we touch. And this allows us very good extensibility across the globe when working with customers. When you look at the value, what RingCentral brings to the table, we are a mobile-first company. And what I mean by that is we think of how do we have mobility built into all of our feature sets, all of our product sets, whether it's from agents working from home, disaster recoveries where you have to pick up from one location and move to another real quick, And just having that ability to not, be stuck right in a seat. You have a hard phone sitting there. You're tied to a LAN cord, and you can't get out. And whether you're running off of a 4G, tethering to a phone, tethering to other networks, but just have that extensibility of mobility inside your tool set. We also feel that collaboration, not only in the enterprise, when you're working with teams or projects within your companies, but bringing that collaboration tool down into the contact center. And that's another unique thing that RingCentral does is we take all of our UCaaS technology and we extend it down to our agents within inside the contact center. So they have the team collaboration. They have the ability to be able to reach out and do videos with the customer if they need to. They can look across the enterprise and find an expert to help drive first call resolution. And the customer never really sees them doing that in the background because that's all part of the collaboration tool, the Teams tools that they have access to be able to drive those first call resolutions for the customers. And then most importantly, looking at an open platform, we have over 1,000 some integrations with other types of applications out there, and our API platform, openness of the platform, really allows us to pretty much integrate with almost anything that's out there. In the contact center, one of the things we run across a lot of are homegrown solution sets. I haven't seen one yet that we haven't been able to work with. So it's a very open platform, which actually gives you guys a lot of tools that are out there. So if we look at RingCentral's ambition, and this was put in Investors Business Daily, this is a quote that was out there. RingCentral's ambition is to do for the business communication what the iPhone has done for the personal communication. Make it simple, seamless, pervasive. And if you step back and you look at that, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, definitely, the iPhone wasn't around. A lot of communications that we have today are new within the last 5 to 7 years. So taking that approach of driving innovation, driving the changes in the mobility out there is what we want to try to do on the business side. And here's probably one of the greatest quotes that's out there. Steve Jobs, I think, is a tremendous person. And I like to use this quote here is, know your customers so well that you know what they need before they actually ask for it. And, it's a very great type of a comment there. And if you parallel this back to Henry Ford had a quote that went something like this. If I would have asked my customers what they wanted, they would have told me they wanted a faster horse. So it's not necessarily sitting there waiting for everything to be told to you. It's having that, that innovation, those individuals that you bring into your environment, into the companies, and that it can think outside the box of how they want to drive technology. So as everything changes in communications, so has the customer expectations changed. They're very big in wanting to make sure that you're listening to them, you're keeping it very simple, and it's most importantly convenient for them. And a lot of things that are, doing that is all the different forms of the digital engagements that are out there, all the social medias from SMS to chat from this company, WhatsApp, Spot Chat. I mean, there's so many of them out there, Twitter and Facebook. And the unique thing about all those different ones, they have a place in the market, but everyone has different identities out there. So now you're sort of in an identity crisis. Oh my gosh, here's Matt Christ, and I've got, 10 or 12 different identities because of all the different social media applications that I use. And the one thing that we're driving with that is being able to look at all those individuals that we utilize in our digital engagement product, is being able to say, no matter what handle you might have, from email to chat to Facebook to WhatsApp, all the different ones that are out there, that we can utilize an AI tool that starts bringing you in and saying, oh, no matter what channel you're on, I know exactly who you are. And being able to present that to an agent that allows them to communicate easier, not only on an inbound of a social communication, but also outbound, making sure it goes out to the correct channel without the agent having to say, oh, was it this channel or was it that channel? all that intelligence is built in. And you also look at the consumers out there as far as, what is it that they're wanting to use? And a lot of that is driven by age. And when you look at the younger or the lower age groups, you have that situation where, they're more into the social media, they're more into texting. And then when you start getting to the mid-age and then to the older group, and I fall under that older group, I call the senior market now. I finally met those credentials. I am more towards the email and phone. I do text messages some, but not a tremendous amount. And social media is a very small piece that I would actually touch personally in forms of communicating with businesses. But there's a lot of companies out there that are coming up that are, on the marketplace that there's no phone numbers for them whatsoever. They're sitting out there and they're a complete digital company. And the only way you're going to be able to communicate to them is through social media. And the one thing that we don't want to see companies doing is what we did in the old premise world. We bought this, we bought that, we're solving for this need over here, we're going to solve for that need over there. And now you're back into the old siloed problem. And that's what cloud really was moving everybody away from, was being able to give you one application that allowed you to do everything in it, an omni-channel solution. So we want to address those needs there. And then the same thing with social and the digital channels is having one solution set that can handle all the different social media channels that are out there, digital channels that we have out there. So let's deliver a unified experience, and let's do it in a collaborative fashion. And the nice thing about what RingCentral can bring to the table is, we talked a little bit about earlier on the openness of our platform, but the ease of integration and having a single user interface for your agents working right out of their CRM system, having embedded call controls right inside of a Salesforce and Oracle, Zendesk, Microsoft. So all that openness, and a lot of them are out of the box plugins that you can download for your agents to be able to utilize. So making sure that experience, not only for the agents, but also for that customer coming in, being able to do screen pops for them to identify them and start that communication in a very quick manner. When you look at the agents that are inside your organization, they're probably one of the most expensive pieces of your environment as far as a cost is concerned. That's, whenever an agent has to interact with a customer, it's going to be your most expensive interaction cost. So how do you manage those? How do you empower the agents to be able to, pick their own their schedules, do shift bids, request time off, and do all that in an automated fashion that you're not consuming your supervisors and having to watch for emails, or should I give this person off, or should I wait till Sally to be able to send hers in because I really like Sally, and if she can get hers in here for the next 2 hours, I'll hold off on this one. So it takes the biasness out of it. It makes your organization run in a very structured manner, but in a very empowering manner to the agents, because they have tools to be able to, do the things they want to do, and seeing when they're taking breaks, lunches, meetings, having a coaching session with their supervisor, or being able to be at home and log in and see, oh yeah, we can take off, this long weekend here, or we can take a week's vacation here, and plan it and submit it without having to, worry about, I got to wait till I get back to work the next day, or, maybe it's going to take a week or two to get approved. All of it is based upon rules. And that's what we want to help drive, is that agent experience also. So when you look at the breadth of the technology that RingCentral brings to the table, not only are we bringing in, the best of the breed for your cloud PBX, team meetings, messaging, video meetings, all the different applications inside of a contact center. I'm going to delve deeply into those here in a minute. But your digital engagement, and if your operation is primarily outbound, we have a special solution set that drives outbound proactive engagement with your customers. Whether it's in collections, whether it's in telemarketing, whether it's in the healthcare industry, or appointment reminders and things of that nature. All those different solution sets are things that RingCentral can bring to the table for you. And once again, when you look at it holistically, global platform, tons of AI out there, ease of integration, all that open platform, and most importantly, getting you information to the analytics, having access to the all the different metrics, what's going on inside. How do I know, this call was a good quality call when someone called in and said, hey, I had all this jitter and noise going on, and being able to look down to the actual call and actually look at the end piece, the end device that somebody's using, saying, oh, you were on an iPhone on cellular service that was actually 3G during the time of your call. That's why you had poor call quality. And we give those two tools to you to be able to have that type of insight for your customers. So let's focus in on the contact center side of the portfolio. We know that from a customer's perspective, the Gen Zs are the ones that are changing our habits, driving to different ways as far as being able to, how we communicate. We know that 88% of them out there hate to have to repeat themselves when they call in to an IVR, and then all of a sudden they get transferred an agent, and all of a sudden you're being asked the same questions over. Who is this? Why are you calling? And then 75% would rather do chores, and that's sort of unusual for the millennials, than dealing with a bot. So when you utilize technology and you utilize bots out there, you have to make sure that they're an intuitive bot and one that feels like it is an actual human communicating out to that customer that you're going to be communicating with. And then for the agents, how do you look at the agent turnover? There's usually right around a 29 to 30% turnover in most companies on agents. How do you take care of that? How do you, make their role more enjoyable? Because the more that people stay around, the lower the turnover rate is within inside your organization. We know it directly affects that customer experience that you're trying to drive to. So what does a personalized customer experience look like? One is when a customer calls in, they're connected, they're informed. Agents can have the information of that customer right in front of them based upon the CRM system or BPM system that they're in, and have screen pop that would come up and show that customer, be able to greet them appropriately, know if they were calling back in on an open ticket, be able to see if maybe if they were in a collections environment, what a payment plan would work out to. All that information delivered right to the agent to be able to make it a quicker interaction, but a more informative interaction from the get-go. Then secondly, being motivated and supported. How do you look at all the workforce optimization tools that are out there, from the workforce management, allowing flexible scheduling, having a quality team where you're listening to calls, or maybe you have an analytics program that we're mining all the data, say, here are the good calls, here's the areas that need worked on. Being able to have a good coaching workflow so you can do proper training, coaching, and feedback to the associates. All of those things play at hand at that motivational piece with the agents. And also introducing maybe gamification. How do you do something as simple as having tokens throughout the day? If you met your schedule appropriately, you weren't late, you took your lunch when you're supposed to, so you had great adherence, and then you had some great surveys that came back in that said if you did a great job, and just nothing more than just receiving tokens that you might be able to spend in a virtual shop that you have on your intranet. A lot of great things that can do there to be able to motivate those agents that are inside there. And those are all the tools that we have at hand that we can deliver in the contact center. And then most importantly, when you're collaborating not only with your teams, ask the experts so that you can drive first call resolution, or maybe in some of your high value customers, be able to do a direct reach out in a collaboration tool that allows you to do what I refer to as a non-demanding communication. Meaning you can start a stream of on what we call a collaborative stream with not necessarily a chat, but one that you can just message back and forth to be able to solve for an issue. We see it used quite frequently in the healthcare industries with doctors doing peer-to-peer reviews. We see it in the mortgage industry when you're trying to, get all your docs put together from the consumer into the underwriting department, because it allows you to send and drop files right into the actual collaboration tool directly to the agent. So there's a lot of different ways you can use a collaboration tool. And it's not just for somebody within the enterprise to be able to speak and talk with. So let's look at working as one. Let's look at the ability to where you have the contact center with the smart routing of an IVR, the ability to, whether you want to send in a text message and communicate just like you do in an IVR with voice, but do it in SMS. Let someone text the question in and reply back to them because you're integrated into your CRM system. Let it come in and you ask a question, and then maybe it's routed to a high-skilled agent that's very proficient at doing texting, along with also taking other calls because of that omni-channel environment that we're allowed multiple types of interactions to take place with a single agent. And then most importantly, integration and the workforce optimization. And once again, we can't forget about that employee engagement with the collaboration tool. It drives a tremendous amount of efficiencies inside of the contact center when you utilize those tools that you're not usually used to. So let's take a little bit of a look at what goes on in the agent environment. What do they have access to? So this is the nice little screenshot here of what we refer to as the Max agent. And the Max agent is what the agent logs into. It's the maximum experience that an agent can have. And not only do you see that you can have their schedule in front of them at all times, you can have a note from a supervisor. So if a change of schedule would take place, it automatically alerts them in here. They understand down at the bottom, what are their call controls? Are they in an inbound campaign only? Are they in a blended campaign, inbound and outbound? Are they able to receive chats and emails? And all those different information, all those channels are right at the one little invite there in the blue that allows that agent to accept those interactions from the customers calling in. So being able to take breaks, going on different unavailability codes. So maybe that you're unavailable for break, for lunch. Maybe you're unavailable for doing a special project. So any types of those different codes that you want to be able to have inside there are very customizable to each platform that we work with our customers on during implementation. And then the ease of access to insight. How many calls are in the different queues? How many agents are available to take calls? What's my longest wait? It looks like we got one there. It's got a pretty long wait there, 638 minutes, or hours actually. So we had somebody goofing off somewhere in a queue there. We might need to address that really quick. But also seeing all your peers and the other agent groups that you have, are they on a call? Are they available, unavailable? And then when you have that part where you need to collaborate, or maybe you need to reach out to somebody in the back office to conference them in, having access to the enterprise contact book that you can reach in, or address book, and you can look in and see the presence of every person that's in your enterprise. That's that single phase there, or single approach of having RingCentral UCaaS and RingCentral Contact Center, because we have access to the to the whole enterprise there to show you exactly who's doing what, and if they are available to jump in and take a call with you. Once again, getting into the motivation and supporting it, the quality management, the different dashboards that can be out there, whether it's for gamification, whether it's for a supervisor, a director, a vice president of a certain business division. If you look at the dashboards that we want to put together, we want them to be meaningful, and we want them to be role-based, meaning that a team lead doesn't necessarily need to have everything that a supervisor does. And a supervisor looks at a business a little bit differently than a director does. And that director looks at it a little bit different than the vice president. So there might be some different things that are rolling up, as an aggregated amount across the company for one of the vice presidents, but then a director is looking at maybe only their individual business unit. So how do we take those roles and deliver actionable information out to them? Not only that's real time, but also historical information. How are things trending? What are some things I need to do proactively to be able to start making decisions in my contact center? And that's where the dashboards and the historical and the trending come into play to be able to help you align those decision making. And then once again, I can't stress enough on the collaborativeness inside the contact center. And if you look inside this little screen here, these are all kinds of teams that were built out there. So it might be one team for every one of your skills, or special projects that are out there. And the great thing about this is these conversations within the teams are persistent, meaning that if you had somebody that onboarded today and you brought them into and assigned them to this team, they would have full access to all the questions, all the documents that have accumulated during this, since the inception of this team, that they can search on. They can type a question and find, answers on their own if they want to. And then if you look on the right-hand side is what we call the shelf. The shelf is a very powerful tool that you can come into. You might have ready accessible documents that you need to be able to grab and send over to a customer. All of those are at your fingertips, on all the different teams. So each team has its own shelf, has its own meaningful documents that could be in there. And this is also a tool that if you needed to have that personalized communication out to a customer, because of how RingCentral's collaborative tool works, the customer does not have to be, a licensed member with inside the collaboration tool. You can send an invite to a customer, and then they can collaborate as a one-on-one directly to that agent that they're working with, and very easily drag a file in that they want and drop into the message box down here, and it will immediately be transferred over. We have some companies that are using it solely for just file transferring with customers. In the insurance industry, for the auto area, where they take large amounts of photos of accidents, they can drag that one file, drop it in the collaborative tool right directly to the adjuster, and they're not looking at size limits that usually comes, accustomed to the emails that are out there. So this is one of our customers. A little bit of a thing from them as far as what they were able to do by utilizing the RingCentral collaboration tool. Excuse me one second. The collaboration tool, and have it in their contact center, have it throughout their enterprise, and providing that personal experience. So for Gant Travel, what it did for them is bring a 30% cost savings as far as the expense they were having per interaction with their customer. It allowed them to start resolving the calls in a much faster basis instead of having to transfer from one customer to another, or from, one associate to another. The intelligent routing, being able to integrate into their CRM system and directing that customer right the first time out of the IVR, then maybe somebody's just going in, pushing buttons, and just getting to a department just to be able to talk to somebody, and then it'd be the wrong department, and then move them and transfer for them from over there. And most importantly, when they looked at the tools of workforce management, being able to truly understand, how many people do I need at 8 o'clock in the morning, at 10 o'clock in the morning, or 5 in the evening, or 9 at night. Understanding what those call arrivals are in all the different channels, and being able to say, I have these skills. There's some that are cross-skilled. There's some that only have single skill sets. So blending those individuals together, I know exactly when breaks can be taken. I know exactly when the start and stop should be for agents. And most importantly, if I have an influx, or I know that I'm going to have a larger call volume tomorrow, how can I adjust that on the fly to go ahead and predict to move people around? So this is pretty much to the end of the slideshow. As far as what I had, wanted to open it up, see what kind of questions we might have, and we'll delve into. Sorry about that. I had a coughing fit. I had to mute on.
I've had that before, Matt, too. Great overview. Thank you so much. The attendees should be unmuted at this point. So any questions that you have, you can either raise your hand or jump in and ask a question. So I'll start with one of my questions, Matt.
Sure.
We're starting to really see what we call unified communications, which is typically your your telephone, your instant message, maybe your texting, um, where you talked a lot about contact center as a service, or CCAS is another way we're seeing that. And I think a lot of clients might be confused that, well, we don't have a contact center, but I can think of a lot of scenarios where some people that might have um, administrators or other people that do monitor calls, they could be considered agents because of some of that extra stuff that you were talking about in the contact center. Are you seeing that more and more where those things, the lines are kind of becoming really blurred as to whether I have contact center or not?
You do see that out there. And the nice thing about it is with the Ring Central Unified Communications and how a lot of people did, the old, the old PBXs, is you had hunt groups out there. So it would ring from one phone to another or from one group to another.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, finally, it was answered. And when we start looking at where people are wanting to really take that customer experience and also understand productivity, because, one thing that's been on the CEO and the CFO's desk for the last 17 years, and it's been in the top 5 every year, is do more with less.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always good just to cut and try to make people do more, but how do you do it in a more customer experience manner? And how do you do it in a more productive manner? And that's where you see some folks start to take the hunt groups that they used to have and put them into a contact center solution, one, to be able to answer the calls more appropriately, but also is if somebody isn't there to answer, how do you put them on in a queue? How do you offer them a callback in queue where they can keep their place in line and a call is automatically launched back out to them? So you see companies that are transitioning from traditional hunt groups, from maybe some of the tech support groups, some of the servicing over in taxes or other areas in financial institutions, that are driving it into a contact center solution. So you have those extra flexibilities. And one thing it definitely brings into the play for the business side of it is it brings accountability of time across all the associates, because you can't sit there and just let the phone ring as if I know somebody else in the group's going to answer it, and you would either ignore it or reject it. And that's what contact center technology does. It brings accountability to the performance a lot more than what the old hunt groups used to.
When I think of contact center, I really think of two things that are brought to the table, and that is queuing and reporting. So anybody that wants to kind of put people in that queue where it can intelligently route to people on availability, that's really what makes something an agent, as well as now I've got tons of reports that I can start looking at from the data, from saying who am I acting with client-wise and how long, and what's my average call time. So companies that do need to start making good decisions based on data, that's when we start thinking of an individual user could qualify as an agent, even though traditionally a company might not think that they have any agents or a need for that.
Most definitely. And the nice thing about when you start looking at what contact center brings to the table, and we'll look at the business side second, but on the consumer side, or the customer side of it, it allows you to see an insight into the full customer journey as far as when they started to reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
Did they reach out in the chat, maybe try to chat with somebody, or look on your website and then escalate into a voice?
Mm-hmm.
Did they send an email in multiple times and all of a sudden a phone call was made? So seeing that customer journey as far as, how that overall experience is, one, helps you drive and change, business processes to help improve that customer experience. And then on the business side over, as far as when you start looking at the metrics and the reporting that you have insight on there, is, you look at total handle time. And total handle time is going to be for all interactions now. How long did it take them to do an email? Because an email can come into the contact center. We can scrub it. We can look at it, say, oh, it belongs in this department with this type of a skill because it has this purpose of an email coming in. And then we can deliver that to the associate. Just like a call comes in, the next email comes in. So we
Mm-hmm.
know how long it's taking them to work an email.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start understanding all those different metrics, now you have great insight into, one, total performance, because the one thing you can't get off of a PBX system is the ability to account for idle time. And that idle time is when someone's just sitting there not taking a call, maybe ignoring calls, not doing any other type of work. So by having this blended environment within an omni-channel, if you have backup in emails and someone has a skill to do it, even though their primary role is taking calls or maybe doing chats, when those interactions slow down, you can deliver an email over to somebody to go and have greater productivity. But you have accountability for all those down to the agent level and to the business unit side. So that's the great thing about the metrics you start driving for the contact center.
Well, and I think that businesses are going to start using that data to differentiate themselves against competitors as well in many different industries. We traditionally think of agents, somebody in a call center that's responding to an 800 number where somebody's talking about a product. And that's really not the case. We're seeing it small businesses all the way up to enterprise, but we're having them starting to differentiate how they service clients and products and market to that, to say we can, you see it in hospitals where they're saying you can, register early and we get you in 15 minutes. That's important for people to say, where am I going to go? So I'm not sitting in a waiting room. So I think that this kind of technology is helping people determine how can they, beat the competition as well.
Most definitely. And one thing that we've seen a pretty big rise in is you've always had those large BPO companies out there
Mm-hmm.
that pretty much dominated doing all the ancillary work for, in healthcare or finance or, retail. But what we've seen is the ability for a lot of companies that have good core foundations as far as how they drive their own customer experience in a small arena, being able to reach out and say, hey, I can monopolize on this. Because I put great controls in, because I have great customer experience ratings, I can now reach out and start doing work for other companies and letting that customer experience come into them. They're taking overflows. And you're right, it does come down to a negotiation piece, or the ability to say, I can deliver better customer service to your customers than what you can.
Mm-hmm.
And we see a lot of that taking place today with small companies that are, starting out with contact centers and just adding to it,
Mm-hmm.
and they add on to different customers and clients.
Yeah, agreed. How about our attendees? Anybody have any questions about RingCentral? Go ahead and raise your hand or speak up. I think everybody's unmuted. I have one more question about video. Video is really becoming an acceptable form of communication in terms of being able to utilize that. And I know here at Symplicity, I've put video cameras on all my staff's monitors, so that when we're having a conference call with clients, they can utilize that video. So video and conference rooms are included with the RingCentral product for each user. Is that correct?
Yes, that's that extensibility of the UCAS down to the agent level. And as I was mentioning, I was